I knew the moment that I started medical school that it was not for me.
Welcome to Aligned and Abundant. I have a beautiful guest joining me. Her name is Latha Jay, and I'd love to tell you a little bit about her. Latha is a manifestation expert, international speaker, and the author of the 24/7 Manifestation Method, Becoming a Magnet for Success in Just 7 Days. With academic backgrounds in psychology, biology, and Ayurvedic science, and integrative medicine, she is known for bridging the gap between science and spirituality in a practical, evidence-informed way. Over the past 2 decades, Latha has helped thousands of people transform their lives through her teachings on identity, emotional alignment, and intentional action. Her content has reached billions of views across social media, where she inspires people to create meaningful change from the inside out. Latha has been featured on magazine covers, appeared on billboards, and speaks internationally on manifestation, mindset, human potential, and personal transformation. Her approach moves beyond wishful thinking, showing people how lasting success is created by becoming the version of themselves that naturally attracts the life they desire. Well, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you on today. Just reading your bio, I am so excited about where this conversation is going to take us. The one thing that popped out in my mind in particular is the neuroscience background, like the way that you tie that into your spiritual lens. So I'm so excited to dive into that. And thank you so much for coming on the show. Tell me a little bit about the beginning of your life, your journey, and fill in the gaps. Tell us all of it.
Absolutely. And thanks for having me. This is a great podcast, and I'm excited to be here and have this conversation with you. Yeah, I can talk to you all about my journey and the beginnings of it. So I actually was raised by my grandmother, who came from India to raise us here. I grew up in New York, and our upbringing, my upbringing with my sisters, was really based in Ayurveda. It's based in really understanding mind, body, soul connection. And that was kind of how we grew up and what was rooted in to us. So it wasn't until I got a little bit older and started going to school and stuff like that that I realized that not everybody lived like this. Like, people lived very, very different lives, but it was always something that was like a natural occurrence to us. And being able to understand energy and the way that the chakras work, and, attracting things into your life, it was just, that's how life was. So, later on, when The Secret came out, it kind of gave me a lot more verbiage to actually talk about this and say, like, yeah, this is what we've always been doing. Like, what's up, kind of thing. So it's actually been this evolution that's happened. But prior to that, my whole entire life, I always knew very, very clearly that I wanted to work with people and I wanted to help people. So when I shared this with my parents, being of Indian descent, they said, wonderful, you should become a doctor. So of course I said, oh, okay. Yeah. As a kid, I was like, yeah, that's what I should do. So for Halloween, I was dressed up as a doctor. My first volunteer job was as a candy striper in a hospital. My first actual paid job was as a doctor's assistant. And then I went to get degrees in biology and psychology and then go into medical school. And I did medical school and pursued an MD for about 7.5 years of the 8 years that's required. And I decided to leave. And in that that turning point in my life when I decided to leave was huge for me. It's when I actually took a hold of my life and I realized that this wasn't the path that I wanted to go down, and I wanted to make a significant change. And so I did. And from that moment, so much emerged, so much blossomed. And it was like with that bold step that I took that the universe just gave me so many blessings and guidance along the way. And it wasn't easy. And I don't want to, diminish all of the work that I put into all these things. It wasn't easy at all, but it was very profound and it felt aligned and very guided. And things were very much in flow when I was actually brave enough to take that bold step. So that's a little bit about my background. And, from leaving medical school, I had a whole host of different professions. I worked in farming, I worked in fashion, I worked in technology, just a little bit of really everything until I figured out exactly where my gifts would be the best utilized. And it's really here in this space where I'm able to support and coach people and empower them to really be the best versions of themselves.
I love everything that you're sharing about your mission and your vision and your calling. And it's so interesting. We tend to want to please our parents when we're growing up. And so the suggestibility that lies within our youthful minds, we're like, yes, okay, great, I'll be a doctor. The amount of courage and bravery that it took for you in year 7.5 of 8 to say, and to really listen to yourself and honor what your body, mind, heart, soul was telling you, and to walk away from that, I'm sure had to have taken so much bravery. You could have easily have graduated and started down that track and then burnt out or felt depressed, etc. But you chose to kind of take the reins in your hand at kind of like the most crucial pivotal point. So I want to commend you on that, because that had to have taken a serious amount of courage and bravery, especially telling your parents that you were going in a different direction than they had originally like envisioned for you with what sounds like your entire life,
Oh yeah,
basically.
everything was always associated with it. It definitely did take bravery, but I want to say this. I knew the moment that I started medical school that it was not for me. And I
Mm.
continued on saying like, oh, just muster it. Like everybody think medical school is like this is da 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 da. Just kind of gaslighting myself to try to keep that commitment, to try to keep moving forward in this direction, even though in my heart of hearts, I knew it was like totally off base and it wasn't for me at all. And it was only in that moment that I remember one day I woke up and I was thinking, life can't be like this. Like, this is not what life is meant to be like. I was so not only physically exhausted, mentally exhausted, and spiritually drained. I knew that what I was doing wasn't the profession that I wanted to continue to live my life in, and it was just like that moment and that shift. I just got up and I was like, I got to get out of here. I'm done with this. And I left. And it was in that decision that everything started to unfold for me.
And that's where the magic lies. We sometimes avoid the knowing, and we just keep trying to muster through it and hope, pray that something will change, something will shift, maybe we'll shift, maybe we'll accept it, etc., until it gets to a point where we're like, no, this is really not for me, and now I'm no longer honoring myself if I continue forward on this particular path. And so I think that the universe responds when we finally say yes to ourselves, to our heart's desires, to the fear that we might be feeling in making that change, but we're willing to take the risk. And with the risk comes the rewards in really getting on a more aligned path. And it sounds like that's kind of been your journey and your experience.
Very much so. That's been very, very on point with my experience.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about how did you get started then leaning into your new role? Like, walk me through a little bit of your journey from saying, all right, this is not for me, to where you are in present day.
Okay. This is a long journey, but I'll definitely try to make it as condensed as possible, right?
Yeah, I love it.
So I'll tell you that like I was sharing, I did a lot of different things, and some things were profoundly fulfilling and some things weren't. And everything that I did and every venture that I kind of embarked upon, I always took very close detail and a very close look at to what I felt very aligned with, what I loved about it and what I didn't, right?
Mhm.
It wasn't a judgment kind of thing. It was just like what works about this, what doesn't in my life. And again and again and again, I saw that what I loved about every profession, whether it was farming or fashion or techno, like any profession, regardless of the industry, it was always that I loved the people. And I loved working with the people and I loved solving an issue that someone was, dealing with. And I knew that I had this gift of guidance. And that's what then showed up again and again and again. And that's when I kind of had stepped into this role where I was giving this information to my friends all of the time anyways. Like I said, I grew up in this and I had studied it for many years as well as a grown up as well. And this was what I would want to do if I didn't, if money didn't matter, what would you do is always the question, right? And this was it. This is what I felt so drawn to and so passionate about. And I loved especially to see the results that the people that I was coaching were getting in their lives. And I was like, wow, this is like something that is so powerful and so valuable. When someone has been in the space of looking for love for many, many years and they come and work with me, and then within a year, they find the love of their life and they're, engaged and on their way to getting married. It's like, whoa, that was like a shift that happened so quickly. When it's someone that's really looking to earn more income in their life and all of a sudden they go from making a $10,000 month to making a $44,000 month. Like that is a life-changing amount of money, right? And that's not something just that it's like one time given to them. This is something that they now understand how they can achieve in their life and recreate again and again and again. And when I realized that these were the profound results that my clients were having, I was like, this is amazing. I want to go all in on this. And that's when I really started to step into this. And social media actually plays a really big part of this as well, because a lot of my clients find me through social media. They might find me through podcasts and different things as well, but largely Instagram, Facebook, TikTok is where I make videos, and I have thousands and thousands of free videos out there that talk about manifesting, that talk about working with your own energy and finding confidence with yourself and using your voice and activating your own gifts. And in that, it's like people find me and they're like, I want to work with you, or I want to know what the next step is. I want to, have this opportunity. I want to come with you on a retreat. And I'm like, let's go and do this. And, I've really realized that my life purpose and my life mission on the bigger scale of things is to do cool things with cool people. And when I look at it like that, it just gives me this kind of like goalpost to move towards. Am I having fun in this? Is this something that feels awesome? Am I surrounded by people that are incredible? Those are always the questions that I'm asking myself. And largely it's been a yes.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I love everything about that. That can be like your slogan. Like I could see that driving around on like bumper stickers. I love everything about this. Tell me a little bit about how did you become visible on social media? Because I've heard so many stories of especially spiritually gifted women who have this greater vision, have this calling on their hearts that they want to help people, and yet they sometimes have to work through either visibility issues or confidence issues, self-worth issues. And I'm not saying that any of those were your journey, but I am curious if any of those were your journey, and how did you like get started, and when did you notice a shift in like the amount of people following or resonating with your content? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And all of that is true for me, right? When I first started, I didn't want to create content online. I didn't want to show up. I was afraid to speak up for myself. I was afraid of the judgment large scale, right? Even though I had been a coach for many years, a lot of my clientele I would get from word of mouth. It would be a friend of a friend. It would be someone that I sat next to on an airplane. It would be, whoever would come my way. That's how I would really be able to get clientele. And it wasn't until I started posting on social media that things really blew up for me. And I think it was during early COVID, we had, I think it was a babysitter that was babysitting us. And she kept telling me, she was a young girl, and she kept telling me, oh, you should make videos for TikTok. And I was like, no. I was like, I'm not one to dance and, do all this routine. She said, no, it's different now. Like just make a video about all the stuff that you're always talking to me about. And I was like, okay, fine. So I started to do that, and I made a commitment, and I said, okay, I'm going to commit to this to make 30 videos in 30 days. Every day I was posting a video. And what I realized was I was getting feedback from every time I posted a video. People would say like, can you talk about this? What is this about? This was so helpful, and I would take that feedback, and then the next video would form, and the next video would form. And that's kind of how things grew. But it wasn't that. If you look back and you can see the first video that I ever posted on TikTok, you're gonna be like, what the heck is this? I don't know what the heck it is, right? Like it really developed from use. And it's just like any muscle. When we are in the space of going to the gym of life again and again and again and doing it, our muscle grows. When I continue to create pieces of content after content after content, that muscle and my ability to actually do that grew and grew and grew and now has expanded. Right. And I post videos on a regular basis, whether it's content on TikTok, on Instagram, and now we're on Snapchat and LinkedIn, like literally everywhere. And it's really like expanded. But it started from me just taking that step, one little step, and sharing my life and sharing different things that I talked about and sharing what it is that I do. And now I get to work with content creators that are even new into this space, coaches and business owners who want to expand their presence in social media. And it's such a blessing. Just recently, I had a client that 5x her following in the span of 2 weeks after working with me. It was 2 weeks. And I mean, even when she was telling me this, I was like, wait, what? I was like, maybe those numbers are wrong. And I had to go and check, and they weren't. I was like, this is crazy. It is crazy when things just kind of start to expand and blow up for you when you are truly in alignment and when you're walking your path. It's a beautiful experience.
I mean, you can't make it up. That story is incredible. It's your story, it's your life, and that's just so beautiful. What I am wondering is, when do you know and how do you know that you're in alignment?
You can feel it. So you can feel it. You just as if you know how when you're not in alignment. And I think that
Mhm.
that's usually easier for people to gauge. It's
Mm.
maybe like a pit in your stomach. It's a sinking feeling. It's a sense of exhaustion, no matter how much sleep you got the night before. It's a space of you feel like you're almost like you're walking in water, like you're running a race, but it's in water. There's so much resistance against you. There's so much you're facing all the time. Life isn't meant to live like that. And
Exactly.
a lot of people have become so accustomed to life being like that. They're like, what are you talking about? That's how life is. And I'm here to tell you that no, it's not. There is a beautiful sense of flow and rhythm and joy that really is what life is about. There's a sense of guidance to move you forward in it.
Yes. And I think that's part of my mission as well, is to allow people the space to recognize that life doesn't have to be on the hamster wheel of go, go, go and repeat, wake up and repeat, be completely exhausted and drained. Like, everyone has a calling that has been placed on their heart, and it's so important that they get quiet enough and connected enough with themselves to really feel into that and then listen to their body, to their intuition. Is this in alignment for me? And then that trust, taking the first step and then following the breadcrumbs. Okay, that worked. Let me try this. Okay, that worked. Let me try this. Okay, that didn't work. Let me see how I could tweak that. And I love that you took the steps of actually listening to what your commenters were asking for, because it's almost like the universe was delivering you the next assignment. So you were able to kind of keep going on that 30-day challenge that you provided for yourself.
Yeah, and it wasn't in the sense of blindly following what people were asking for, but it was like feeling into it and having an
Mhm.
idea. If something felt in alignment, yeah, absolutely, I would create a video about that. It was almost as if the suggestions were coming to me, and
Right.
that's how, things were being created. And even to this day, if I get a great comment, I'm like, I can make a video about that.
Yeah.
If there's something that a client's continuously ask me about, I'm like, great, that I can make a video about that. And of course, I also make really great content in regards to the full moons and the new moons and the different kind of astrological shifts that are happening for us in a way that's really easy for people to understand. I think that that's also what has kind of garnered me lots of attention, is because I'm not talking it from an astrologer's point of view, right? I'm talking as someone who grew up with astrology being a way of life. I'm not an astrologer. I've never claimed to be an astrologer, right? I'm not going to read your birth chart, but I can tell you some transits and how this might affect you and just, some of the basic stuff. But even from that basic understanding, it's given a lot of great value to people in a practical and understandable way.
Yes. And it's so wild because I was just saying to some of my clients that it's hard to imagine people don't think that the moon, for example, affects us, because I mean, it affects oceans and we are at least 60% water. So it's like, of course, it's going to affect us. So
Absolutely.
it's so important and valuable in learning how the different moon cycles have an effect on all of us, on the collective that is currently here in action.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. I say the same thing to my clients, and I'm always
Yeah,
like, the moon affects us.
love
And
it.
you can also
Love
see
it.
it, like I was saying in my background in medicine, we would always know that, like, hey, it's a full moon. Even if we didn't know, we knew because the people that were coming in would be a little more chaotic. There'd be a little more of this frantic frenzy energy going on. And
100%.
that's
My
always
mom has always worked in the medical environment and they know it's like marked on the calendar. Even when you go into like the obstetrician, like the moon cycles are literally like on the calendar as you're sitting there waiting to get your exam. You're like, oh, that's interesting.
yep.
It's like they know. So tell me a little bit about this book that you are going to be releasing this upcoming October. It's like the perfect time also. I love October personally. It's my favorite month. I love the fall and I love spooky season. So tell me a little bit about your beautiful book, 24/7 Manifestation Method.
I am so excited about this book coming out. Yes, it's called The 24/7 Manifestation Method, Becoming a Magnet for Success in Just 7 Days. And this book really taps into a methodology that I created many, many years ago. And I had worked with thousands of private clients in regards to exactly this method, including people that have come on retreats and things like that. And I've seen such incredible results with it. Now, what you do in 7 days rewrites your mental paradigm and rewrites your subconscious to make you more aligned with the goal that you're achieving and make you have a different set of thoughts, really. And when you're thinking differently, your beliefs shift. When your beliefs are shift, your actions shift. And when your actions are different, you're showing up in the world as a different person. And the world is perceiving you as a different person as well. And it's really interesting how this all happens because it doesn't take a lot of effort. And that's one of the reasons that I had created this book. And I know that it's going to really change the life of many, many people out there. And I recommend anybody that's listening, go and get the book. I promise you it's going to be incredible.
It sounds amazing. One thing that I'm taking away from this conversation and getting to know you better is I love that you're passionate about making it digestible and easy to understand because like you said, no one wants like an encyclopedia of how to manifest. No, we want something that we can really understand and put to practice right away because people that are picking up these types of books and having these kinds of conversations and listening to these types of podcasts, like we are here for a purpose and a journey. We want to get the most out of life and we want to give the most out of life that we can. So it's just so important and valuable that you're able
Absolutely.
to do that, you know?
Absolutely. And that's really where I find the most value for people. Everybody is busy in their lives. We all have big games that we're playing in our life, right? Big goals that we're going for. And this book really does break things down and gives you practical tools for your subconscious reprogramming and also grounded, proven neuroscience techniques to help you to just rewrite the way that you are thinking. So it's like the integration of insights from work that I have done across industries and across the world, really, from farming, fashion, tech, yoga, everything along the lines of that, and also integrated into the work that I've done in the space of spirituality and manifesting. And I'm so proud of the book, and I know that it's really going to make an impact in people's lives because it breaks it down and it bridges the gap that can often exist between spirituality and science, or
Mhm.
maybe something that's thought as more esoteric versus something that's thought as more practical. That's where we're meeting. We're meeting in the middle here.
Yeah, so I love that you mentioned that you're blending neuroscience, mindset, and the nervous system work. I've really been understanding that the nervous system work is equally as important. So, can you tell me or expand about how those three really work together and jet set you off on the right course to manifesting?
Absolutely. The nervous system being regulated is so important because in manifestation, when you understand the root of manifestation, is really rooted in your thoughts and your emotions. So when your emotions are going haywire and your nervous system is unregulated, your manifestations are not really going to be on a regular basis. Things aren't going to be flowing into your life because your body is sending out a signal of fear or of no, this frantic energy within you is really symbolizing, no, this is not it. It's creating this static, and you do not absolutely want that in your life. When your nervous system is regulated, when you're feeling at peace and at home in a safe place in your body, that's when things really start to open up for you. And you're able to then achieve the things that you might have only dreamed of at one point. Like I was, you were sharing in my introduction, I just am now on a cover of a magazine and on a billboard. That's something that I had only dreamed of, and that's something that now is part of my reality. And it really started with me regulating my own nervous system and finding peace in the idea of being seen by millions of people in the world that maybe I don't even know, that might have never seen a video that I've created or not know anything about me. But there I am in West Hollywood hanging out on a big billboard. And and that was one of my biggest manifestations, but it only happened after I myself was able to shift that energy. And even though I've been doing this for a very, very long time and I've been coaching people for a very long time, that was something that I want to say struggle, but I don't like the word struggle. I've dealt with, I have encountered again and again and again, is being seen, is that vulnerability that happens when someone is actually seeing you. And it was like when that shifted for me, so much just kind of expanded in that space. And that's what happens a lot of times too, when we're ready to really like overcome that resistance, when we're ready to shift the way that our nervous system feels, when we're ready to kind of let go of a limiting belief that we've carried for a long, long time, things just expand for us in our lives.
Yeah, it becomes so possible. And the funny thing is, the ironic thing is that it's always been available, but we have to be ready and open to receive it and then hold it. So that nervous system work is so crucial to allowing in what we truly do desire.
Yeah, absolutely. It's vital.
Question, do you only work with women or do you work with both men and women? I know so many people, and I'm not saying anything against it because I generally myself am drawn to helping women, but I'm not like anti-men, you know what I mean? So I'm just curious as to your coaching services. Do you work with both men and women?
I largely work with women, and I'll tell you about 80 to 90% of the people that I coach are women.
Yeah.
And there is a select group of men that I absolutely will work with. But I think that there's a little bit a little bit more caution that I take in that space because I want to work with whoever I am choosing, regardless of their gender. I want to make sure that I can help them and support them.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's any reason that I should take on a client that I don't feel that I can 100% help. So when it comes to men, I'm always like, let's see if this is a match, right? And women, I'm like, come on, girl, like, let's go. I know that this is my zone of genius, right? I grew up surrounded by women. I work with women all the time. That's always kind of been the way that things work. And I'm cool with the dudes too. Like, you're welcome here to come. But largely a lot of my programs, even if I have a speaking program, it's called Speak Her, right? It's mainly for women to really activate their voices and be able to speak out and be true to who they are. And every time that I run it, every cohort, we always have one or two guys that join us, and we're always like, cool, let's
Yeah.
do this. Let's make
I've
it
seen
happen.
that too. I've seen that too. The brave men that are willing to step up and step in. And then they're usually so well received and loved and adored and kind of like put on a little pedestal, like, wow, you're so brave. You're here. You're with us. So that's always so fun. It's interesting. I think in this day and age, even though more people are becoming open-minded, I think to leading manifestation and the spiritual side of life, which is beautiful, I think that it's definitely more woman forward in regard to who's willing to raise their hand and make the change and to live the best life that they possibly can. So it's definitely not. And I often teeter totter in there between, again, I think it's so important for it to be an aligned match. And again, regardless of gender, it just has to be an aligned match, a partnership, because you want to be able to feel like you can genuinely support the person that you're working with. And it has to feel good on both sides. That's just so valuable in setting your boundaries also. All right, tell me about your thoughts and feelings about when you feel stuck, because I know for myself, like we can do all the work and think that we're making progress and make progress, but then sometimes we get at that stagnant point again where we might feel a little stuck, a little sticky, a little like we're questioning our decisions and our moves. Can you share a little bit of what you would tell someone who's saying, hey, this is how I'm feeling. What advice do you have for me?
When someone's feeling stuck, the biggest issue there is like the stagnation of the energy. And every time for any person, I highly recommend that you start to move that energy outward. Now, what does that look like? It usually looks like giving your time, your energy, your effort monetarily. Giving it externally really changes something. Maybe go and volunteer at a soup kitchen, mentor a young child, donate to cover a meal for someone. Whatever that looks like for you, when you are pushing that energy externally, you're taking the focus off of yourself. And sometimes we can be very hypercritical about whatever's going on within us, right? And that just really is the thing that primes the pump. If you ever have worked with a hand pump to get water out of the ground, out of a well, you know that initially you have to pour water into it to then be able to kind of lubricate it to get the water to then come out. And it's the same concept here. When we're feeling like we're pumping and nothing's really happening, what do we have to do? We have to pour into this to then be able to get the stagnation and the energy out. And a lot of times, even with a small effort that you're just putting that energy externally, things start to shift for you because it shifts your perspective as well. And you see, wow, this is like life is different. And there's like a different energy that I can work towards, and things start to shift for you.
That is a really beautiful metaphor. I didn't actually know that you have to put a little water in to get the pump going. So, like, I have that visual in my mind. It's like that makes so much sense. I love that. Tell me a little bit about the neuroscience aspect again, just because I myself am still so curious about understanding this. So, we can actually change the neural pathways in our brain. And do you have the knowledge of like how that happens? If you were to give the listeners like a step by step, where can they start to rewire their brains? If there's someone who, let's just call a spade a spade, I have someone in my life who's constant like a Debbie Downer, right? Everything is like waiting for the other shoe to drop. How bad can it get, etc. What would you like tell that person, for example?
I would give the recommendation for anybody that is in your life that you feel like is an energy vampire or a Debbie Downer, whatever we're calling it. If it's not in alignment with you, highly recommend that you limit the time that you're spending with that person because regardless, we are creatures of habit, and the energy that is around us impacts us, whether we're conscious or it's happening subconsciously. So create boundaries around the people that feel like an energy drain to you so that you're really living in your best energetic self. Now, when we were talking about neuroscience, absolutely, our brains are malleable. Malleable means continuously changing and growing. So just as we can learn a new skill, we can really shift the way that our neuronal pathways are connected and the beliefs that we have. So when we're doing work that we've mentioned in the 24/7 manifestation method, when we're really like tapping into our subconscious levels and we're rewriting our own patterns, we're actually doing that and changing their neural pathways, changing the ways that we think subconsciously. Now, one of the methodologies, the main methodology of the 24/7 manifestation method is working with our hypnagogic state. Hypnagogic state is the state of time between rest and wakefulness. So it's that shift that's happening in which our subconscious is the most impressionable. And this, when I realized this, I was like, this is a hack here because we got to tap into this. And that's where I had actually created this methodology. So right when you're sleeping and you just wake up, and this is not you wake up and you go to the bathroom and you have breakfast and then you sit down. No, this is like you woke up, your eyes are open, you roll over, you grab a pen and you start writing, right? And in that time, when your subconscious is the most impressionable, you start to impress upon it whatever it is, the goal that you're moving towards, right? And it's going to be your affirmation. You're writing it 24 times. Then that hypnagogic state also happens when you're awake and then going to sleep. So at night, before you go to bed again, we're doing the same practice again, another 24 times. And in this process, when you're continuing it for 7 days and you're really meticulously in routine about it, it rewrites that message in your subconscious. And you'll notice the shifts in your life, maybe not even immediately, but it's happening deep within you. Because as we know, our thoughts affect our beliefs. A thought that's thought thousands of times becomes a belief. And our beliefs impact our actions. They really dictate our actions on what we're going to do in the world, what we're going to act upon, and what we're not going to act upon. And our actions are then perceived by the world in a certain way and then mold our own perception of the world in a certain way. So when we look at that and we go back to the root cause here, it's with our thoughts. And when we're shifting our thoughts, it starts to shift everything for us.
So powerful. It's so powerful. And I hope, my intention is that by sharing this conversation, we are educating people who are listening to and also empower, right? When you have the tools that you're sharing in your book, it's so inspirational because people have the tools to change their lives. And I, for one, I believe that state is one of the most powerful states that you can be in. I am a vivid dreamer and I love that state. Like you're kind of like in the dream realm, but a little bit out of it, in it, out of it. That's like the best time of my day. Not the best time, but one of the best times, one of the most fun. Let's put it that way. What is special about the number 24? I heard you say to say it, the affirmation 24 times. Is there like a special meaning behind it or?
So you're writing it 24 times.
Oh, okay.
The method is called 24/7. So you're writing it 24 times in the morning, 24 times in the evening for 7 consecutive days. And that's where the naming technique comes from it. But what I noticed is that anything more than 24, people are like out of it. Anything less, it's not as impactful and effective. So 24 was really the sweet spot that I found after working with lots and lots of people about it, right? And we've tweaked it this way and that way and kind of worked with it. But that's what I found has been the most impactful long term for people. So that's what we've stuck with.
That's beautiful. And it's kind of like trial and error. It's like, let me test this. Let me see what feels good. Let me see what lands for my clients, and then take that information and compile it into your methodology that you're going to be teaching and sharing in your book. Tell me a little bit about all of the ways that people can work with you. For example, I know that you mentioned that you lead retreats, and I would just love to hear a little bit about your experiences about coaching and community and what led you to want to host a retreat, and then the transformations that have come along your path, along your way, like the memorable ones that have stood out to you.
Yeah, I do host retreats right now. I think I have 3 of them that are still lined up coming up in Costa Rica in 2027. I have one that we're going to in Bali in September. There's a lot that happens, and I love to host. I usually host between 3 to 5 retreats a year. This year I hosted one in Texas. We've had one in Costa Rica and Bali, and next year the main 3 that we're hosting is in Costa Rica. And that's kind of my signature retreat, if I can call it that. It's called the Journey Retreat. And in it, it's mixed modality. We're talking about our spirituality. We're doing the work. We're going on these incredible excursions to see Costa Rica. And we're bringing in incredible indigenous healers and people that I've worked with for many, many years at this point to come in and work with us to get us further along on this spiritual journey. We're doing breath work and cacao ceremonies and really like digging in deep. But the way that it's structured is so beautiful to allow so much to emerge from within us in a very peaceful and fun way. I believe that spirituality can be fun. I believe that we can do the work and make the changes and go through hard things and maybe even have difficult conversations with joy in there as well. It doesn't always have to be this doom and gloom, dark night of the soul, shadow work all the time kind of thing. I believe that there's fun in every aspect of it. Even when you're crying, you can laugh, right?
That is so true. Enjoying and embracing the duality of all the emotions. How did you begin to allow yourself the courage or the bravery to host a retreat out of country? I'm just curious. And like Costa Rica, like tell me about like your journey and your thought process of like, all right, I want to do this. Here's where my heart is pulling me. Like walk me through a little bit of your retreat journey. And I would just love to hear how you got started with that.
So I have been hosting retreats for almost 25 years now, actually a little over 25 years. So it started when I was very, very young, the desire to gather community. And what I realized was when people gathered together outside of their everyday norm, it was different. The energy was different, who they showed up as was different, and the work that could be done and the intensity with which we could work with them was different. And when I realized that, I didn't start initially with international retreats or out of the country retreats. I did lots of stuff internally. And I noticed again and again, regardless of what the situation was, I would constantly want to create a group here and do this and get these people together and let's do this and let's have this. And I was organizing things no matter what. And when I realized that, I was like, oh, this is something that I absolutely love to do. I can see how impactful it is in people's lives and I want to continue to do it. And that's when I really kind of blossomed into doing retreats internationally and all around the world. And it's been a lot of fun. And now I have people that come with me on retreats from one country to another and, want to continue to do the internal work because they know how impactful it can be. The retreat that we host in Costa Rica is very different than the one that we have in Bali, even though they're both deeply spiritual based. It's also really, really fun. There's a lot of exploration that happens and there's a lot of soul connections that happen. You end up meeting so many people that are in alignment with you. Just this last retreat, I mean, I hosted a retreat maybe about 6 months ago. Their conversations are still going so fiercely. I've hosted retreats even 4 years ago where the group is still continuously, they meet once a month, This is like you meeting your soul tribe. And, it depends on the people. It depends on the group and how much of an involvement and connection you want to keep going. But it's like endless possibilities that unfold when you're connected with the right group of people.
100%. And I do believe that you meet the most amazing connections when you go on a retreat, when you are brave enough to go on a retreat, because I know that some people get so hesitant or caught up in, going on a solo exploration, like going as a solo person or not knowing anybody. And sometimes I feel like those are the bravest examples of going on a retreat and walking in and not knowing anybody because you leave with like the most divine connections, relationships, friendships. And it's just, I can't encourage enough people to go on a retreat because it is just so life-changing. And then, like you said, you find the people that will keep showing up, keep raising their hands, and then they're just growing and expanding. And it's just, I'm sure, so beautiful to witness on your end.
Always, always. It's so miraculous. And I've been doing this for a while and it's always been a miracle. Every time I hear a new story, I'm like, yeah, this is amazing. And, also about, coming on retreats by yourself, I would say almost everybody that comes on one of my retreats is coming by themselves and has no idea who else they're, going to be interacting with. And it's a little bit of a leap of faith because you're like, oh, this person that I know from the internet is hosting this.
No, right?
Signing up to do it. And then we meet up in the jungle and we have this incredible time. When I host a retreat, it is with so much care and so much intentionality. Everything is meticulously planned. I mean, to the level of it's a little bit obsessive, right? Like there's things that I organize that I'm like, I can't sleep if this isn't right, because I know the value that it can potentially bring to someone. And I want to make sure that we are hitting all of the points along the way.
That's so valuable as a leader, integrity and wanting to make sure that you're providing the best experience, service, care, comfort that you possibly can, and transformation, of course. And of course, you would want to meet your Instagram or TikTok friend in the jungle,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so funny. It's so modern day, right? Like, imagine. Imagine back in the day, like, hey, just come cross the seas and meet with me. Now it's like the normal. It's like the norm. All right, this has been such a beautiful conversation. Is there anything else that you want to hit upon before we close out this conversation?
We touched upon so many different things. This was an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for having me on here. I think we're pretty complete. We've talked about so much.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. So I'm going to put all of the ways to connect with you in the show notes. I highly recommend my listeners to go and follow Latha. This has been a beautiful conversation. I'm so blessed and thankful that you were able to come on to the podcast today and share all about your knowledge, your skills, your gift, and your joyful smile. I can't wait for my audience to get to know you. And I highly recommend that they do, because I believe that everyone that comes on this podcast has a gift, a story, and some type of message to be shared. And that's what motivates me to continue to do this, to continue to show up. So I want to thank you so much for your time, your energy, and your lovely spirit is just radiating through the screen. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you for
Tell,
having me.
thank you, thank you. Tell the audience where we can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on TikTok, on Instagram, on basically all of the socials. You can search my name. It's Latha, that's Latha Jay, that's Jay. You can find me, across platforms. I'm getting up there, almost at 1 million followers now across platforms, which is really exciting. And you can also check me out at my website, which is lathajay.com. You can also purchase my books online at Amazon and major retailers as well. And I have 2 other previously published books that are currently out. One's on manifesting and the other's on shadow work. And then this upcoming book, I'd love for you to pre-order it. The pre-orders really matter. And I want this work in the hands of as many people as possible, because I know that it is really going to be something that can create a global shift in the mindset and the empowerment of how people actually think about their lives and what is capable for them.
Yeah, that's always the mission, right? To affect as many lives as we can in a positive and inspirational way. So, amen to that. All right. Thank you so, so much. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.